for these lectures and other aspects of the Democratic Labour Party. Thank you for the new president as well that's been elected and is now finding his way at the helm of this great, for all the leaders who surround him and all the workers who helped to put this together. We pray that you will move in a very special way throughout these lunchtime lectures, and it will be informative, educational, developmental, inspiring indeed, and most of all, we will see a lot of action coming out of what is said for the betterment of the party, for the nation, for the people, for families, for the youths, for children. We do pray, God, and we release your presence in this place today, for in the presence of the Lord is the fullness of joy, and at his right hand there are pleasures forevermore. So we lift this lecture time to you, and we thank you for all that will be said and done today for your honor and for your glory. We give you the praise, and we thank you in the name of the Father and of the Son and the blessed Holy Spirit. Everybody say, Amen. Amen. Be seated. Thank you.
It is with great distinction that I invite Senator Maxine McLean to give an introduction and an overview of the Astor Watts lecture series and to further introduce the president. Thank you so much. Make her feel welcome. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And good afternoon, and let me say welcome to those who have been part of this lecture series for the last 2 decades, and to those who are attending for the first time. And to start, I want to say something about the man after whom the lecture series was called. Astor Burley Watts, or Astor B as we called him, was one of the longest standing members of this Democratic Labour Party until he died in the year 2020. He was born in rural Barbados and could speak to any of us of the development of politics in Barbados. It was back in 2000 that it was felt that we needed to have a voice to hear from the members of this party and to share our ideas as we served this country in opposition. As such, Astor B, as many of us call, was an elder of the Democratic Labour Party and died 2 days after his 98th birthday in April 2020. And I can tell you, until his death, he served this party. I was fortunate to interview him, and at some point we will see and hear his thoughts. He, in his latter days, gave one of these lectures, and therefore, the best way that we can serve this party and to commemorate his sterling, in fact, I would say his golden contribution to this party, is to maintain this lecture series. And as such, it is befitting that our president, our new president, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, be called upon and has accepted to start the new series of these lectures. Remember, I said that this series went on for 20 years before the passing of Astor B. And I do not want to spend a lot of time reflecting on his contribution because we are here for a lunchtime lecture and we need to hear from our president. While the president said that we could just call him up to speak, that would have been totally inappropriate. So I will, in very few words, introduce our very distinguished president. Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, I will describe as an intellectual, an academic, a true professional, and of course, a politician. A young Barbadian who experienced life as many of us did, and by that I mean in a working class household, experiencing the challenges of poor Barbadians, but one who was able, through what I would describe as the legacy of this great Democratic Labour Party, was able to excel academically and professionally, and who has demonstrated his commitment to give back to this country in the form of public life. a lecturer at the University of the West Indies. He has a stellar curriculum vitae, which demonstrates not only his academic qualifications, but his experience both domestically and internationally. As a lawyer, somebody trained in the area of international trade and finance, etc., I think that Dr. Yearwood brings to this party and to the leadership of this party and to Barbados a wealth of experience, but more importantly, from what I have seen so far, a commitment to be open to work in partnership with this party, the members of this party, those who are recent, those who have been there for medium term, and those who have been serving this party for a long time, and thus a commitment to giving to Barbados all that this party has stood for in its social, economic, and other programming. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome our speaker this afternoon, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. And as he approaches the podium, let me say that the discussion after his presentation will be chaired by Mr. Paul Gibson.
Thank you very much, Maxine, for that warm introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first Astor B.Watts Lunchtime lecture for 2022. I would firstly apologize if my voice gives me away a little bit. I'm suffering from a little bit of laryngitis, so do bear with me. And I want to begin by saying thank you to the many volunteers who have held and hold this party together. We often don't say thank you enough. Often everything is focused on a leader and the leadership of a party, but events like this take a lot of background work with all elements of the party working as best and as hard as they can to make them happen. So I want to start with a thank you. In winning the presidency of the party, I said it was about change and I said it was about the future. That does not just involve a rotation of the chairs or swapping one set of proposals for another or one set of policies for another set of policies, but a real change in approach and a change in direction. Because Barbados has changed, our world has changed. Opposition politics, as I have said, and I walk this walk and I talk this talk, is not simply about critique, though let us not devalue critique on its own merit. It's about solutions. It is important that there's critique of the government's policies so that we get to the solutions. Critique and solutions obviously do not have to come through the government. In any democracy, critical thinking should be encouraged as it brings the best to the fore. In a democracy, we should want policies that are the best for the country and for the people. Citizens should be free to critique their government in public spaces and not have to come into a government institutional setup for a government-led conversation. It should be encouraged that we all lend our voices to critique and solutions for a better Barbados. That is why spaces like the Astor B.Watts lecture series are important, because they provide a space for people to express alternate views on public policy. And importantly, it provides a chance for our party to listen to the people of Barbados and listen to the experts who may not always agree with us. The approach that government owns or tries to own every public space of discussion is not good for a democracy and the development of Barbados. A country's democracy is not owned by any political party, and let us make that clear. I want to say to all Barbadians, critiquing the government at this time is not about complicating or adding to their difficult job. Managing the government is not a fair weather job, and if the current government's response to everything is that governing is hard and the process is difficult, tell us something we do not know. That is why we elect governments. Stop whining and campaigning and get on with governing. And if you cannot do the job, get out of the way. The reason is that critique is key to democratic governance. It is a hallmark of the best of our democracy, especially those freedoms of expression that are guaranteed by our Constitution. Your view or perspective does not require permission or approval from the government to be heard. During our post-independence period, when policy work was meaningful and it is what brought this country forward, critique was key to both sides. In fact, it brought out the best of both parties and so brought out the best of Barbados and its citizens. It is up to a responsible government to take note of critique and address the issues put before them, instead of trying to absorb critique from public view while filling the airways with platitudes about being in the national interest. If the national interest says the government, as it has recently said, your response to the cost of living crisis is not good enough, and this party, which is part of the national interest, not based on hearsay and rumors, but data, talking to the experts, talking to Barbadians, and we have said as well, your response to the cost of living crisis is not good enough. What do you think a responsible government should do? You go back to the drawing board, you listen, you get alternative views, and you come back to Barbadians with a full slate of solutions and policy prescriptions. You do not engage in headline-grabbing initiatives about 1,000 families with no clear details of how or when questioned, you seek to dig in your heels as if questioning government policy is treasonous. Barbadians have said, while the help is commendable, the policy needs work. Why those 1,000 families? Which ones? But aren't more than 1,000 people and families suffering? Instead, it has fallen to us as an opposition party to be responsible and to come to you not in a hot and sweaty fashion with solutions, but clear, possible, workable alternatives to put on this table for and to address the cost of living crisis. This party will step up to its responsibility at all times as the storm clouds gather over our society and our economy. The cost of living crisis demands that we have a responsible government and we have new politics. What do we have at the moment? A third of all Barbadians, and I've said this before, are living in some form of poverty. Multidimensional poverty, they call it, and it points to income and wealth distribution issues, as well as lack of opportunities or barriers, whether in education, health, and society in general, to make their lives better. I hear talk about prices are high everywhere. All over the world we heard, and we must eat rice with no gravy, or is it rice with gravy and no chicken? The French queen said, let them eat cake. I guess we have to eat gravy in Barbados. But the reality, it is not true. Prices have increased in other places, but where those prices increases start from is important. Barbados was already in a cost of living crisis prior to the war in Ukraine, which seems to be blamed for everything these days. But in Barbados, under the BERT program, we've already seen massive tax increases in water, online transactions, fuel, and so in comparison to other places in the Caribbean and the world, Barbados is already one of the most expensive places to live. Cost of living crisis currently are no cost of living. So you add the cost of living crisis to that, that is our starting point. We are not starting in the same position as other countries in the world. So it is definitely untrue that we are in this crisis the same way as our folks in the Caribbean and other countries. We have a government that can casually say, oh, food prices have gone up by 20%, while fetting with the director of the IMF on an island tour. It must be nice for some. Amidst the hugs and the island tours, I assume rum punches for the IMF. No island tour would be complete without a good rum punch. Our children, my son, your daughter, your grandchildren, were just saddled with more debt. There is nothing such as free money, and at some point, it has to be paid back. 2018, after the current government won the election, $200 million from the IADB, $150 million from the Caribbean Development Bank. In 2019, another $150 million from the Caribbean Development Bank. In 2020, $400 million from the IADB, $386 million from the IMF, $200 million from CAF. By 2020, that was a total of $968 million in new loans for Barbados and our children and our future, because we are always borrowing from the future. The central bank then, in its January report, January to March 2020, stated that the government mainly relied on loans in 2020 20 to 21 for a sum of $497 million. So that's another 497 added to the 968 million. In June 2021, we got a loan of 200 million from the World Bank. In February 2022, we got a loan of 230 from the Bank of China. In March 2022, we got another loan of 190 from the Inter-American Development Bank. We were told yesterday by the IMF that Barbados had just completed its 7th and final review on the extended fund facility, and we will draw down on another $23 million, bringing the total disbursements to some $43 million US to Barbados. I remember an old saying from my grandmother, "Who help you buy a big guts mule, don't help you feed it." We would be wise to listen. At this rate, the government has probably borrowed more money than any other government in the history of Barbados. This is not responsible governing. Tax, spend, borrow, tax, spend, borrow, pause, play, repeat, pause, play, repeat. That is what this current government is about. Be reminded, borrowing is just delayed tax rises. We as a people should be fuming about these tactics. I certainly am. The old politics of the government, the cynicism, trying to play us for fools as if we do not get it. We have to stop pretending we live in some value-free zone, as if we cannot say something is good or something is bad, because as politicians, we fear people will say, "But what about you? You know what? What about me?" No one is perfect. I leave perfection to God. But if I see something, I will say something. I am tired, and I know that you are tired that this country is not changing. The government has had its 100 plus days as customary to set out some of plans or measures to address the things that we face, and currently that is the cost of living crisis. They are abdicating their moral duty to the people of Barbados to address the cost of living crisis. It is as simple as that. We can pretend we are in a value-free zone all we want, and we can tiptoe around what is happening. But hungry bellies, empty pockets, and bare cupboards do not pretend. Our people are hurting, and the government is not acting with any sense of urgency. I've heard about a meeting with the social partnership. Weren't we to have that meeting last year as well? The government likes to say that the current cost of living crisis is global, and they can't do anything about it, as if we are like any other country. That is not true. Let us understand, as I said, we are starting from a different place. And therefore, the failure of this government to act to assist all Barbadians in the cost of living crisis is a moral abdication of their duty and their solemn responsibility as the government of the people of Barbados. The government's responsibility, first and foremost, is to the people who elected them, Barbadians, no one else. So against this backdrop, we are not experiencing the same global inflation crisis. This is worse and demands that a government cannot sit on its hands and appear inept to the critical issues affecting the lives of Barbadians. The government must act. This is not the first or the last crisis that a government of Barbados will face. Is the government going to fold its hands every time something goes wrong? Or are they going to stand up, face it, and fix it? The meaning of leadership is to think ahead and come up with responses to what the people face. So, in that vein, I am going to lay out some solutions that we, the people and the members of the Democratic Labour Party, are proposing. I'd already set out one, which is to bring forward the reverse tax credit of $1,300 for people earning below $25,000 a year. At the moment, according to our labor statistics published by the government, about 44,000 people earn under $499 a week. So that's about $200 a month, or about $24,000 a year. So they're under the threshold. The long and short of the story is that for a total workforce of about 114,000 people, which is what the government is, total workforce is, a large portion of that of our people work for less than $25,000 a year. Imagine that. In fact, no, it is real. You don't have to imagine that. Add to the pressure, the cost of living crisis, to the salary for families and individuals, and you get a sense of where we are. What I would suggest to the government, it is up to them to do it or not, because they are the elected and responsible government of Barbados, is to bring forward the cash back, the money usually given to those earning below $25,000 now as a form of ease. It could be done as a one-off lump sum, or it could be done, or it could mean $108 per month for those people, or $325 every 3 months over a 12-month period. This is a matter of priorities. All of us are being asked to change our budget, eat gravy without chicken. Well, government should look at its budget and consulting staff and the appointment, it seems, of a double civil service. Do we need a director of protocol in the Prime Minister's office and a director of protocol in the Foreign Office as well, Foreign Affairs Office as well? Just like households' budgets, a government budget also needs to respond to changing circumstances. So yes, Dr. Greenidge and the government, it is all about choices. You are choosing not to do anything to help Barbadians. One of the other solutions, number 2, I propose that we remove the 1% levy on those earning $6,250 a month. I do not know how a retroactive tax could be imposed upon Barbadians. It should have never been done. It is the epitome of wickedness. The reason is simple. You are taxing someone for past behavior and actions that happened in the past when they did not know that they were being taxed and therefore would not have accounted for it. If there are 2 things that lawyers and economists can agree on, you cannot apply taxes or the law retroactively. The government just did this in passing the 1% levy, which attacks the middle class. But get this, the same government then asked the middle class for help with vulnerable groups. How? The government removed some of the little income that this class would have had to use to help their social clubs, their church groups, or for their meeting turns at work. It is unfortunate for a government that likes to pretend it is economically disciplined to be so obstinate and wrong-headed in its approach to back tax people. It is not only morally wrong, it is just plain wrong. Third solution, or third proposal, expand the VAT-free basket of goods. This is to provide a wider basket of items that people can buy that are all VAT-free. We all know we go to the supermarket and the bill may be high, but the amount paid in VAT is also high. Government needs to stop talking down to people. VAT-free is not simply about what traditionally was considered basic items. That has changed. We have changed. The fourth proposal is a cut in the excise tax on fuel by 40 cents per liter. This cut would provide relief to customers directly in their pockets. Given energy costs are attached to everything from everyday living to manufacturing, this would provide a general ease across the board for all Barbadians. I can hear the howls in the corridor of the Ministry of Finance, but I am not here to fight for the Ministry of Finance. I am here to fight for the people of Barbados. First, let us understand a few things. There has been no big fuel loss as Minister Strawn proposed. Revenue foregone is not revenue loss. It is that basic. You cannot lose something you did not have. The potential extra revenue in the absence of the government capping the VAT due to prices rising would not have been realized if the prices did not rise in the first place. It is foregone revenue that the government would not have contemplated when it budgeted. It is foregone revenue gains that would not have been contemplated before the oil and gas prices surged after the war in Ukraine. That, by any measure, is not revenue loss. Minister Strawn, and perhaps he is becoming a politician, which is sad, is either being disingenuous or missed some classes at university. The 40-cent cut on fuel, any revenue loss would be easier to forecast than the VAT cap, which the minister clumsily demonstrated recently in the news. And the more predictable revenue loss from cutting the excise tax would be offset by any higher import duty and VAT receipt as the base prices rises. We do not know the details how much the VAT cap is saving consumers, as today's prices or any other price since the measure was implemented. The government simply has not told us. We do not know that the cap is 40. We do know that the cap is 47 cents per liter, meaning the government collects no more than 47 cents per liter despite any price rise. Why is the government not telling us how much the VAT cap is actually saving the consumer per liter on fuel? Government likes to pretend it cannot control the pricing, and it's all down to world markets. Nothing is worse than a half-truth. It is about priorities and what are the priorities of this government to the people of Barbados. Fifth and final solution that we will put on the table is relief to pensioners by granting a tax credit to businesses who provide a VAT-free day monthly for shopping to pensioners alone. Our elderly are living longer, meaning that their incomes are reduced. We simply and must assist in every way we possibly can. You can tell a lot by society in how it treats its old people and how it treats its young people. These are some of the solutions that have been laid before you by this party, and we place them squarely on the table for the people and the benefit of Barbados. This is new politics in action. I said at my inauguration that our approach to opposition politics will not only be about critique on its own, though that has value, but we will be solutions oriented as well. Trust and believe me when I said it will be different, I mean it. Walking in the sunshine again means as a party and as a country, we cannot do the same things and expect different results. It means a change in our approach. What we face at the moment can only be addressed as a party and a country by changing. It is about new politics. We as a country must demand a change in approach, a change in where our people are placed at the heart of the economic and social constructs of this country. Long before I assumed this office, I've been listening to Barbadians, engaging with Barbadians. They say they're tired of old politics, the tearing down, the viciousness. Energy cannot be spent on attacks when our people are demanding solutions. When an opposition party can come and clearly put workable solutions on the table and say, we do this for our Barbadians. This is not about the Democratic Labour Party. This is about all Barbadians. No cloak and dagger, no phone calls or casual phone calls about inviting folks to a meeting. We have laid our cards squarely on the table. But you know what you will get from the government? And we have seen it over and over. Attacks on Ronnie. Send out an advisor, send out a minister as if it's about me, but not a word from the government on anything to actually help Barbadians during this difficult time. But I am the focus, but we will not be distracted because my focus is the people of Barbados. For me, it is new politics, people first. That is why I am committed to practicing new politics, a new politics for a better Barbados. For too long, we've had a politics of politicians telling people what is good for them, and often not getting it right. New politics is about listening, engaging, and shaping policies for all Barbadians. It is about making the Democratic Labour Party open to all Barbadians. All are welcome under our big tent. This party is on the move. Our mission is to serve. It is not simply about saying what sounds good to catch a headline here or there. My friends in the media may be used to that from the current politics, but I'm going to tell you something. Get used to something different. Get used to actual ideas and discourse. Put credible and sensible solutions on the table for all Barbadians. In this case, because all Barbadians are suffering from the cost of living crisis. We know our people are proud and would not necessarily say they cannot eat or they cannot fill their cars with gas. I remember growing up, and even when you were hungry, once the pot went on at somebody's house, you found a reason to leave because nobody was to know whether you were hungry or not. So our proposals not only speak to helping all Barbadians, but they do so that people's dignity is maintained. Assisting people is not about handouts, it is about hand-ups. This is new politics. Listening to the experts and the people, and then reflecting them in policies and solutions. This is new politics. Putting forward solutions for all Barbadians. This is new politics. Our society is broken at the moment. We know it. We feel it. We see it. The police commissioner recently connected increased crime to the rising cost of living. This means that addressing cost of living should be the #1 job of the government in the short and the medium term. And while our society feels broken now, it will not always be like this. Better days lie ahead. And a party that I lead will be tough on crime, but also what causes crime: the poverty, the hopelessness, the lack of opportunities, the sense of being left behind and left out in your own country. We cannot only treat to just crime, we have to treat to the manifestations of the deeper problems in education and welfare. Families first. I see you, David, smiling down from where you are. Addressing families must be at the heart of social policies in trying to mend our society and create a better Barbados. I want to offer my sincere condolences on that note to the families of those who have recently lost loved ones to gun violence or other forms of violence. There's so much work to do in our society, and we, the Democratic Labour Party, are readying ourselves to do it. The party I lead will be a party of new ideas, innovation, and transformation. I ask you to join us in this journey. Thank you. Yeah.
Please give the president another round of applause. That is what we need in Barbados right now. Someone told me last week that we can't take 2 copies of the Time magazine to the gas station or the supermarket and ask for a discount. You're not going to get it. So thank you, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, for your excellent presentation. At this time, we want to open the floor to you to ask your questions to Dr. Yearwood, to Ronnie, and I want to just, Maxine has a funeral to attend to, so she's going to leave us now. But thank you, Maxine, for the introduction and the announcement of the Astor lecture. So feel free, the mic is in the middle. You can feel free to ask your questions if you have any. I will probably start by asking one question. Have you heard any